Hello and welcome. This is Business Morning, Thursday, December the 26th. This is another special edition of the show as we wrap up the outgoing year 2019. I am Bosin Omofaye. Let's give some background to today's show. It has become obvious that it is politics that drives the economies of nations. Ashemoglu and Robinson assert in their seminal book, Why Nations Fail, that the major difference between developed countries and developing countries is in their political evolution. Developed countries have political and economic systems that are inclusive and offer opportunities for most people to create wealth. However, most developing economies have political and economic systems that are extractive. So the cultivation of leaders with exceptional character and skills is critical to Africa's development. So incompetence in leadership in most African countries is not only the problem of people who occupy positions in government, it is a reflection of the leadership culture. Africa's development partners should therefore recognize that it is too late to teach someone who occupies a high position in government how to lead during side talks at global events. These background statements are direct quotes from an article published by the World Economic Forum in May 2017. That article was written by Sam Adeyemi, a PhD student at the School of Business and Leadership of Regent University in Virginia Beach, United States. Sam Adeyemi is a senior pastor of Daystar Christian Center here in Lagos, Nigeria, and the CEO of Success Power Incorporated. Now, let's get the show started. My guest on this special Business Morning edition is Paul Alaje, a senior economist at SPM Professionals. He's live to us from Abuja studios. Good morning, Paul, and hope you're doing well today.
Yeah, good morning. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Now, do you agree with Sam Adeyemi's submission that politics drive the economies of nations? If your answer is yes, then what's wrong with the Nigerian type of politics?
I agree 100% with Pastor Sam Adeyemi. And I also agree with many authors around the globe that say that you cannot have viable economy without having strong politics. When I say strong politics, I mean institution rooted in democracy or institution that, and what matters to such institution is the welfare of the people. At the end of the day, economic institution will guarantee prosperity for all. Now, answering the second question, we say what's wrong with Nigerian economy or what's wrong with Nigerian politics? I would say, well, most of the politicians in Nigeria, they are economic rainmakers. And Nigerians expect such to happen to them because if you look at what the numbers are saying, we have approximately 60% of our people living less than $3 a day. Properly speaking, more than 50% of our people, 98 million people, are having issues with dimensional poverty. Approximately 50% again are living below poverty line. These are figures from different authorities, from National Bureau of Statistics to UNDP. They have released figures and figures. So people who are living less than $1 per day and political actors, political players, they have this number and they understand the game of politics. What they do is when election is very close, they start making rain, artificial rain available to them. When I say rain, I don't mean something dropping from the sky. I mean financial rain, giving them 5,000 naira, in some cases, in some parts of the country, cups of rice in order for them to have their vote. And you saw what so many organizations reported in some elections that happened before general election, where you saw people with hidden camera covered some of the things that happened during the election in Nigeria. It caused for a lot of worries. And that's why we have the kind of leadership we have. Because when we refuse to educate those who have the numbers, those who will decide at the end of the day, those who will lead us, they are not educated, many of which are not educated. In fact, figures released on out-of-school children in Nigeria is over 13 million people. Most of these people, some of these people, after some years, 5, 10 years, they become electorates, and they will choose leaders too without educating them. The question they need to ask before recruiting leadership is, how much of development are we going to have? Many people, and I can say this to you, that less than 10% of Nigeria can tell you the meaning of GDP. Less than 10% of Nigeria. You don't necessarily need to be an economist as a Nigerian to know the meaning of GDP. In some other environment, numbers matter to people. People want to know how the economy is growing, what is happening within the economy. But in this part of the country, what we cater about is, do I have meat in my pot? Do I have food in my store? Or do I have money to live today, this moment, and now? So if you look at America, I give you an instance between United States and another country called Mexico. There is a particular city. What divides the city among these two countries? It's a tall wall right in the middle. People on the left, they have high, life expectancy. They are well educated. They live long. They have good jobs. People on the right, however, that's people that fell in Mexico, they have very low life expectancy, highest education, very few people have gone to high school, and they have high level of unemployment. What is the difference? The difference why America is better than Mexico: within the same city, divided, they have the same ancestral, they speak, they have this, they sing, they dance to the same music, their way of life are the same. The one on the left was fortunate to fall within United States territory, while the one on the other side, maybe I shouldn't say it's unfortunate, but they find themselves in Mexico. So on the left, you have institution, political institution that have translated to economic institution. Thus, prosperity naturally will happen. Those on the right, however, they don't have consistent political institution. On the right, you are privileged to vote. On the left, it's second nature to vote. There is no ballot snatching. There is no issue whether people are going to vote or not. But on the right, that's not the case. So when you see that countries, so, you know, the case many people have said about Africa is because we are dark or because we are black. I'm talking about a country, a place in North America that share boundary between the United States and Mexico. The same place, the same geographical territory. And you can find this in Why Nation Fail. The example is stated there.
Paul,
so
now, Paul,
why are we failing? Because political institution is not there.
A very quick one here, and you just talk about the book, Why Nations Fail. That was the seminar book by Acemoglu and Robinson here. And what they said, which is also said here by Sam Adeyemi, was that the major difference between developed countries and developing countries is in their political evolution. So back to my first question. What's wrong with the Nigerian political space? When we talk about Nigeria's political evolution, that makes it almost impossible to deliver the so-called dividend of democracy, where democracy is not first nature, but becomes second.
Now, when we talk about politics in the West or in the North, what becomes of those who are following leaders? For instance, today, most people in the North would think it's our turn. Therefore, let us maximize what comes to us. Whether the president is right or wrong, we just have to follow him because Southerners have done their part. There was a video that trended online last week where one of the leaders in the North, obviously before camera, said that the South have done 12 years. I've done approximately 16 years, thereabouts, and the North have only done 12 years. So let us vote again for the North, whether it is President Buhari or not. So it is more about geographical leadership. It's not about competence. It's not about capacity. So we want to recruit leaders. And this is not to say because a man is from the North. Someone from the South would have said the same thing. We have not yet started considering those who can lead us. I strongly believe that as a country, until we start recruiting those who are good among us. Unfortunately, those who are good are too academic. They don't want to join the game of politics. They believe politics is devil's game. So they exempt themselves. And another group of people who are excellent, brilliant, they don't even want to work for government. Another group of people who are excellent and brilliant and don't want to do politics, they don't have the resources to do politics. So you check another factor where our recruitment process is very poor. You see, many people who also want to do politics, but they need to have godfather. So you might not agree with.
Hold on. You just talk about those who are good. And you talk about those who are good in terms of educational, academic qualifications. Hold on a second. Is that necessarily so? This is part of what Sam Adeyemi says. It says the cultivation of leaders with exceptional character and skills is critical to Africa's development. So when you say those who are good should lead Nigeria, politically speaking, are you talking about academic and school qualification or those with exceptional skills and character?
Ordinarily, education should provide skill. You cannot drop, skill cannot drop on your foot from the sky. You need to be educated, whether formal or informal education. And no matter how good you are, if you lack character, you've lost everything. So what Mr. Sam or Pastor Sam Adeyemi had mentioned is combination of education and character together. And skill will come to you because you are mentored, because you've acquired it, you've been taught, you've been learned, you've been taught one skill or the other. Those are people that should be there. But you know, you really be bothered when leaders of Nigerian space or Nigerian politics are saying, or you've heard them on air saying that they don't know anything about economics, they don't know anything about how to grow the economy. What they believe is that those they've appointed, which of course they've not done the needful, they've not done background check, should be able to do it. And if they don't do it, I wonder where Nigerians will find themselves in the coming period.
So, it is said here that there can be no economic systems without politics. So, how can Nigerian politics design, develop a functional and sustainable economic system? Paul?
Yeah, so to develop functional economic system is first to create space to encourage those who are in politics, who are not in politics, those who we want to attract, those who most international organizations we talk to have information about Nigeria. Interestingly, when most international organizations come to Nigeria, they don't go most of the time to government to receive some information. They go to private organizations that they believe in the integrity of their numbers, of what they're doing to get to office. We know these people in Nigeria. We know they can do it. Most of the time, when government invite these people, they stop at the level of advisory. They don't let them get involved in their space to help them organize government and so on and so forth. So when you look at involvement of professionals and those who can help government and the people, by the way, in getting dividends of democracy, you see the level of involvement is really very small. And if the level of involvement is low or is limited, the kind of result you have will also be very, very low. So how do we recruit these people? It's by inviting them, it's by engaging them. I expect that most political leaders who have done their bit, they should create something like institution. We have Kennedy School of Economics. We have so many schools around the world of leaders who have done their part, and people have named this institution after them, or some of them have even started this institution. How do we get these young people? The good thing about Nigeria is that we have young people's number. We have them in their number. We need to get these young people, if truly tomorrow matters to us, if truly we want to develop tomorrow. The truth is that we are where we are today because of our decision over the years. But for us to get to have a new narrative of our country, we must carefully select those who we believe can help us reap dividend of democracy, who we believe that can help with the development of our country. Get these people political training, because it's not enough for you to understand how to build economy of country or state, and this must include subnational, subnational, by the way, economic of states or economy of a country, and you don't have any political quotient. The truth is that you will never be able to get a political space. So to balance it, we need those who will be recruited either as SAs or as PAs or as ministers or as commissioners, as the case may be. Get them on board, let them be involved, and also listen to them. Unfortunately, most of the things I have witnessed for those who have been at the corridor of power, and they are good people, is that when they give advice, most of the time the advice are not political. And when the advice being given to those in office is not political, they will not follow such advice. Some of them want to protect their name, they leave office. We've seen like 3 cases of those who left their principals because the advice were not, because the advice given to them was not what the principal would prefer.
Paul, so do you have any idea of how we can re-engineer the current class of politicians and politics to deliver development?
Now, the advice will not be that we should do away with all the politicians we have now. That would not be advice. My advice would be to advise young people to get involved in politics. Young people to go and register in political parties, APC, PDP, all political parties. Make sure you are there. We have the numbers, unfortunately, but young people are not aware of this. Now, money is not enough for politics. Number is also very crucial. The more young people you have, the more influence you would have, and I hope that in coming period, not too young to run organization, which is of course led by young people in that regard, they will also advocate more of this for young people to get involved and also to serve. I also want to encourage President Buhari and his team and also all the 36 state governors of within Nigeria and say the FCT minister to allow more young people to be involved in their cabinet. When they're involved in their cabinet, they start seeing prospects. These young people, Nigerians, are seeing them. The truth is that no one can become president of Nigeria today if his name is not a brand name. And you can check everybody that have left the country. The name must be a brand name. So no matter how you are good with, say, Fortune 500 organization, and you are not known at the grassroots, you are not known at domestic level, you are not known in Nigeria, as the case may be, or at different states, you will try, you will have good ideas. You saw a lot of people that ran for presidency, young, vibrant, energetic individual, doing well in consulting, doing well in ICT. They contested, but when results came out, there were just two candidates in that election. And because results show that most Nigerians who are not on social media, they don't know these people. Most Nigerians who just listen to radio and watch television, they were rally. How many of all the candidates even called for rally? So my advice is that young people should get involved. You know, books have been written, speeches have been delivered from 60 till today. Why we struck? It was not why we were given opportunity. Striking now will not be a function of coup or gunshot, or it will not be. It is for Nigerian young people, talented individuals, skillful people to be part of politics and follow it one step at a time. Okay. And as a matter of fact, time will tell when we start reaping dividend of democracy, particularly coming from young persons.
Yeah, Paul, we talked about Why Nations Fail, which is a book, a very interesting book, an enlightening book. Another book, which I'm sure you've read, is The Rise and Fall of Nations. So if we take that on, yes, which I'm sure most likely you have the book with you there in the studio, in Abuja studios, what have you learned from this book in terms of political leadership, leadership for development, and turning around the economic fortunes of nations from a political point of view? Now,
from a political point of view, many country leaders, there are three types of leaders. You have leaders who get to office simply because they have the numbers, but they don't have knowledge. Now, these people don't understand spendings. They don't even understand investment. So you see many countries where these leaders are, they will possibly be having improved foreign reserve because they don't spend, they don't invest, but they also want to borrow more. Now, borrowing to have more debt does not necessarily, if that borrowing is not translating to increase in investment, particularly public investment, the GDP of such country will shrink. When it shrinks, poverty and unemployment, hunger, these three we hold sway within such economy. You have another kind of leaders who is very flamboyant and can spend everything in treasury. But most of the growth these leaders have, because they don't encourage production, they don't encourage factories, which is, of course, for me is the most important. They don't encourage all of these things. What you see in such countries is that you will see growth, but the growth will be jobless. Nigeria have experienced at one point or the other two types of leadership. The third type of leadership is what we are hoping to have. When you have leaders who have fair knowledge, I'm not saying a leader will know everything, but have carefully selected best among the best, who can help deliver across sector and from sectors to different agencies of government. Those whose palm you do not need to grease before you can get some things done within the public space.
Paul, we will talk about the future of economic progress and those 6 pillars as outlined by the World Economic Forum Strategic Intelligence. But first, we want to return to where we finished up before the break. In the Rise and Fall of Nations, you were trying to explain how to deliver or how to re-engineer the current politics and politicians to deliver on economic development beyond GDP.
So beyond GDP, the power and influence of a political leader is in the numbers of his economic productivity. So when someone gets to office, what was the economic shape like and what is it now? Before leaders that we want to live in their countries get to office, they deliberately want to change the fortune of their country and wants to make the places to be the most desirable places for people to live on earth. So for us in Nigeria, we've had several leaders from 1960 till date. We've had even leaders from 1999 till date. How have they left office? Do we have improved gross domestic product? Do we have improved health? Do we have improved education? Do we have improved technology? Because you don't have economy in 21st century if you don't have technology. Do we produce more than we're doing before? Are we importing more? What is happening to our currency before they go to office and right now, or when they have left office, or where we are right now as an economy? So those who have led well, when you look at 2 pillars of country, developed country and countries that are underdeveloped, or for the sake of being modest, developing country, how have they led the economy of our country today? Have we done well in terms of growth, in terms of education, in terms of health? What is happening to poverty? Is poverty increasing? What is happening to real income when you use 1990 as base year? Do we say that Nigeria are truly any more today? Or inflation over the years have eroded what we have given them or what we are even promising to give them? What is happening to power supply? What is happening to infrastructure? These are very important things. Leaders who are leading and those who wants to lead must answer. When we wait for someone to get to office and we are hoping that he will have the knowledge to develop our country, I'm sorry, it's rather too late at that time.
Paul, that goes straight to my question and taking that cue from what Sam Adeyemi said in that paper of the World Economic Forum 2017. He says, in quote, Africa's development partners should recognize that it is too late to teach someone who occupies a high position in government how to lead during side talks at global events. So, Nigerian leaders attend a number of global events, international, economic, political events. So, Sam Adeyemi says it is too late to teach them how to lead at those events. He says it's too late. Now you're saying it is also too late. So, how do we avoid it is too late?
Now, for it not be too late, we need to have leaders who already have the knowledge required to develop an economy. And I'm happy that Nigerians have started approving manifestos before election. But, you know, most of the people who even contest elections, some of them don't even show up for manifestos. So you don't get to hear what they want to say. And I hope the National Assembly or appropriate authority we make it necessary for these people to speak to Nigeria. I've checked websites of many political parties in Nigeria, and I've been doing this for a while now, and I've seen what the political party is promising and what you are seeing in the real sense. There is a major gap from what they said they will do and what they are doing right now, what they have done before now, because I'm not talking to just this government, even government that we have had over the years. They are not doing exactly what they said they would do. So is it when they get to office they will do it? For me, I think we should recruit those people, and we have them. There are a lot of more people in Nigeria, particularly at the state level, a lot of people who can turn around the fortune of our state. Loyalty is very important in politics, I understand. But if loyalty will limit our growth and development, the people that we vote will definitely be the one to suffer in the coming period. You can earn 5,000 or 4,000 naira for a period of 4 years. You have earned only 1,000 naira per year. And when you divide 1,000 by 365 or 366 days, as the case may be, you notice that you've cheated yourself, not just because of the money you have collected, but also because of your children that is yet unborn. So for me, we also want to see people who have done it before, people who we can say that we want to follow after the example in things they've done in private sector. This is what we see in most developed nations, that we want to replicate those who we love the rate at which the economy have grown or is growing, and we want to compare ourselves with them. So, but if we don't want to do what they did to get them to prosperity and development, and suddenly we believe that is by praying and by going to churches or mosques is what will deliver economic prosperity, I really don't think so. Our sins may be forgiven, but I'm not sure if our economic sins will be forgiven if we don't take right economic decisions.
So, those 6 pillars of what you call the future of economic progress as outlined by World Economic Forum Strategic Intelligence. And I will bring that back on the screen in just about a second. So, if you can see that there, Paul, I'm sure you can see that. If you look at these 6 strategic pillars, now I'm sure you can see them. If you look at these 6 pillars, how do we get effective leadership that would deliver on these 6 pillars? Now, my question here goes therefore to how do we choose the team? How do we choose the team that would deliver on these economic development systems from our political base?
So we have organizations that are responsible for some of these pillars already in Nigeria. We have some that are doing well with some of these pillars outside Nigeria already. We have these people. Unfortunately, most of these people are not political associates of those in government or those that have left government or political parties. But if we want dividend of democracy and we want them to deliver, we need to bring them on board. Now, some administration would say that even though they are not our ministers or special advisors, we could hire them as consultants. So, but before information gets to appropriate headquarters, from consultants to advisor, from advisor to minister to executive is sending to National Assembly, those in private sector don't have that long turnaround time. They want to get these tons, they want things to move. Imagine you have energetic, young, vibrant, and a determined person at the ends of affairs. The turnaround time and performance will be higher than we have it today. So for me, I think to recruit those who can do that is to look at those who are already part of this around the world already. Some ministers are doing excellently well. Some, they may need to improve their game in terms of getting some of these reports. So more importantly for me is to build key performance indicators or key performance index around some of the things the global leaders is saying. So how do we improve productivity and improve competitiveness? In what sector do we need to improve competitiveness? How do we improve taxation and sustainable growth? Is the growth we have even good? Is it even good enough for us to talk about 2.1%? How do we improve it to about 6, 7, or 8% so that we can have multiples of what our population growth is saying? How do we have some of these things? Sustainable environment or green environment. How do we have some of these things happen in our economy? For me, is to recruit those who can do it, those who are doing it. In fact, some Nigerians are doing it for some other organizations, some countries outside the country, is to bring them to Nigeria and let them see reasons to be part of politics. But things that will limit government and those who will be in government will be religious, say ethnicity, and things that separate us. Those, about 5 of them are things that separate us: ethnic group, regions where you come from, the language barrier, and so on and so forth. These are things that separate Nigeria. And it's not just Nigeria, even countries that have huge population like Nigeria, India, for instance. Until India start collapsing these 5 differentials or these 5 factors that separate them and start considering development as central goal. So if we start considering development as central goal, it will not matter if the president is from the north and his vice is from the north, when we know that when president is from the north, his vice from the north, the two of them have given us more economic prosperity. For instance, all federal highways are in good condition. We don't have potholes on all our federal highways. So it will not matter to us. But right now, what we believe is that when the man at the helm of affairs is from our region will develop. So let's look at it. When we had presidents between 1999 to 2007, what happened to the region? From 2007 to 2010, what happened to his region? From 2010, in fact, to 2015, what happens to his region? And right now, 2015 to this moment today, what is happening to his region? Have these leaders truly developed their own region alone? Have they been able to provide amenities for people in their region? In their regions, do they have 24 hours power supply? Clearly, leaders, when they get to office, we know it's very difficult to be 100% selfish and face only your people. But the people that are getting them to office don't understand this fact. They still want to protect and do regional politics rather than doing national policies. So when they get to office, who do they know? They will go back to those that put them in office and put many of them on the table to be members of cabinet, hoping that they will achieve sustainability, which, of course, the platform with which they were recruited already negate that. So you will not see some of the results we hope to have in economy and economic pillars of the country.
Technically speaking, Paul, you agree with Dr. Economist, who just sent in a comment as one of our viewers via Twitter. This is what he just put out on social media. It says, political party structures in Nigeria is largely rudimentary. We need to evaluate these structures to ensure effective socialization of the electorate.
I agree 100% with him. He's very right. And political party is the foundation of everything, political institution. If party structure and party system still recognizes who has most of the money or who, whether the person has knowledge or not, but hold the structure of the party. What we have today is individual owning structures of political party. You see what is happening in Edo State. Something similar happened in Lagos State. It has happened in different states. You saw what happened in Bayelsa State. So many states of the country, even I think in Kogi State, and so many states. I hope something like that will not also repeat itself in Osun State. It's not just whether it is north, south, west, or east. It is the belief that power's political structure should be centered around one person. Political parties themselves are weak. That is why they are producing weak leadership. When political structure is very strong, you will see strong government and you will see strong criticism coming from opposition because party itself is strong, is as strong as the government. Even though they are not in office, but they will know what the arguments are in order for them to bring out the real issues to the front burner for entire federation to know and ask questions from those that are leading them.
So, when we look at the administration currently on hand and those who are in charge of delivering the future of economic progress for Nigeria, you have a cabinet of about 36 ministers or so, but if you listen to the news on a daily basis, you hear the names of just about 4 or 6. The rest are largely somewhere in the shadows. The question is, why?
When you look at the real pillar of the economy, you'll be talking about infrastructure. That is what Nigerians don't have. So infrastructure will affect the Minister of Power, it will affect Minister of Works and Housing, it will affect Minister of Transport. That is the reason why you hear these 3 names almost all the time. So you will see what is happening to railway. Nigeria is connecting railway from one end, from Lagos State, I think, to Kano State, and it's going to Oyo State, from Oyo State to Kano State, which is very laudable. So, and also, administration also want to put up what his scorecard are, what he has also done over the years. So he has to parade these people. Minister of Power will also come to say, this is what we've done. You also have Minister of, I think, Aviation, I'm not sure now, who would also come up to represent administration as to what they've done. So you see these 4 ministers. The other one would be Minister of Finance. You can't do anything without revenue generation. You can't do anything without spending. What happens to federal allocation? You can't do so many things without that. Those are the people you see. But other ministers that we should see more of should be Minister of Sport and Youth, or Youth and Sport. You should also see more of Minister of Education. You should see more of Minister of Resources or Natural Resources, if you have one. So we should see more of these people who are doing things that are not necessarily alongside infrastructure, health, education, and youth. What are they doing? The youth minister has access to perhaps all the youth in the federation. What program do we have for young people? So if we don't have programs for young people and all we have is football and few other sports, that's only the time the minister will show up.
Yes, I just taking that from you. So when we talk about youth development and we go back to these 6 pillars of future economic progress, is it about building more stadium for youths, an arena where they can play football, play ludo, judokas, whatever it is, and then in the evening drink some alcohol at the side of the fence? Is that what you call youth development, really? Because if you bring back those 6 pillars...
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Well, I'm just going to ask. So if you bring back, and you're talking about those ministers whose names are on the front pages of newspapers and news headlines every day. So if you look at productivity and competitiveness, do we have the minister who's going to deliver that? Do we have the taxation? You talk about the Ministry of Finance, inclusive growth. Who's in charge of globalization? Who's in charge of the 4th industrial revolution for Nigeria? And who's in charge of environmental sustainability? I mean, the economics of it.
So when you look at all this and you see what we have is Minister of Works and Housing, what we have is Minister of Transport. What we have is Minister of Education. We also have Minister in charge of health, etc., etc. So what we have developed is traditional ministries that we are trying to fit people into the ministries. We are not trying to change the ministry to suit the future. And what does the future mean? The future is where the world is going. The future is not waiting for us, is what the next page of the world. So we will always play the catch-up game when we don't rejig our system, our structure to fit in into what is going on. The other way, if we still want to use this structure, or want to use this system that we have now, is to now create targets for all the ministry, for all of them to have one thing or the other to contribute in terms of these 6 pillars. I'm not sure that is the target we have for all of them. Rather, the best target you see is that make sure the money given we make sure the money given to them capital expenditure is spent, and that is just budget. On what are we going to spend this money? How do we achieve it? That's why our organization have advocated for creation of a national economic development plan. National economic development plan, perhaps for 10 or 20 years, which will spell out what the future will be. So how old will we be? Those who are leading us today, how old are they? How 20 years to their ages, or to how old they are, you'll be serving people, some above 90, above 100. They will not be able to do anything economically. They will be too old to contribute in terms of economy.
Interesting point, Paul, as we go into the final lap of this conversation. So how do we weigh the year 2020 from January the 1st, Paul, from our string of economic program failures of the last 20-25 years in terms of visioning, with the optimism that the current administration is trying to build with a new year 2040 economic program?
Oh, okay. So to talk about what we should be expecting in 2020 today, 26th of December 2019 is too late. I'm sorry, it's too late for us to start thinking of 2020 today. Countries have already planned 2020 from year 2000, and some that are slow are planned 2020 in 2010, in fact, some 2011. So for Nigeria to start planning that is too late. What I can say is that if you want to plan 2040, then 2020 is the best time. And what should we be looking at? What we need to look at is to create new economics. If we create new economics, by 2040, we will see meaningful reward, or from 2030 to 2040, we'll see meaningful reward. And I would also like to paint an example of countries that created entirely new economies and have been able to reap the dividend of the creation of what they've done. Most starting with leadership, the recruitment of leaders were selfless, and those who felt the people is what matters most and not the people within their just political party or their clan members. That is what we need to build starting from 2020. And this cannot happen until we have a national economic program that we want to drive starting from the year 2020, perhaps to 2040. So I agree with Mr. President that we need to work on such documents that will not just tell us what to do, but that will also tell us how to do what to do. It will also identify where the monies will come from. Perhaps that was the failure of economic recovery and growth plan. It told us how we lift people out of poverty, but it has not mentioned how much are we going to invest to lift these people out of poverty. So you saw he was expecting 4 to 7% growth rate. He only achieved 2.1% growth rate because there is no number attached to the expectation. So looking at the programs now, what do we really want? What do Nigeria want? What do we want in Abuja, FCT, where I am? And what do you need in Lagos? What do our viewers in Arkila, in Sokoto, what do they need? What do those in Akampa, in Cross River State, Calabar particularly, what do they need? We need to look for how to build entirely new economy while we will not totally destroy what we have now. What are the things that we need that will make us build economy and create new jobs? We are in 21st century. As we speak, less than 2% of our population are moved from one point by rail, from one point to the other. So government is looking at how to connect. Do we make this beyond just administration of President Buhari and document it to say that we need to connect all the major cities of Nigeria between now and 2030? How much are we going to need? Where are we going to get money? Are we going to look internally source it, or do we want to use it, or do we want to use debt to finance it? And when we are using debt to finance it, will it be local debt or foreign debt? What will be the percentage? What will be the growth of debt that we want to collect? The pace of debt, will it not be higher than the pace of economy? Because when pace of debt, when pace of borrowing is higher than pace of economic growth, economy will still collapse irrespective of what we use the money to do. So that on one hand, if we can connect our population together, how do we introduce technology? How do we make our environment the most desirable place for people to invest and people to live? So we'll be looking at things such as human movement, we'll be looking at creating new jobs, we'll be looking at infrastructure, we'll be looking at education. More importantly, we will put Manufacturer Association of Nigeria, and it's not just because of the association, but those who are manufacturing in Nigeria at the front burner. I understand the current government have been talking about agriculture, but when we talk about agriculture, it is not just for people to bend their backs and put seed in the ground. It is for processing. It is for what happened after harvest. That is where most of investment should go into. If we say we have abundance, we have favorable land, that when we show it grows, that is the work of nature. What is now our work? Our work is that we should process paddy rice into rice that we can bag. We should process oranges to fruit drinks, to juice, to what we can give to our population to buy, to modern population that we have. How do we do that? So when we put all of this and say we want to eradicate, we want to reduce poverty by 100 million people. Per annum is 10 million people. In which sector? Which sector will this job come from? Will it be for oil sector? Will it be for non-oil sector? Will it be for service sector? Will it be for manufacturing? Will it be for processing? How do we reduce quantity of number of fabrics that we import from Turkey, from India, and particularly from China? How do we produce more and more? If it is Abada, our people, quote and unquote, Ankara, our people can produce. Can we change our school uniform by year 2025 and say that it is only those materials that we can produce in Nigeria that our children will wear, whether they are in nursery, kindergarten, primary, starting with public school, then later private school. This will not only create 2 million jobs, it will make the jobs sustainable, because more people, as they go out of Valentine's Day, by December that same year, or November, they are bringing some people to join Nigerian population. And the more you have, the many of them want to go to school. And as they go to school, we'll keep importing school uniform. How do we look at our problems and strategically and tactically bring solution to our problem and giving our people prosperity? Those countries who are rich are not rich because they imported riches or they imported solution. They look critically at the problems they have. They gave themselves time and bring their best to run their economy. Today, they are good for it. I'm talking of Singapore of this world. I'm talking of China of this world. I'm talking of America of this world. I'm talking of United Arab Emirates of this world. By looking at what they have and providing solution to their problems, using their own people, they become great and there are countries many people want to emulate today. Rwanda is not waiting for us. They have started doing the same thing. Nigeria needs to do this starting from year 2020. And I hope if we are still around by 2040, we'll look back to today and say we have made a good decision.
Well said, Paul. But again, we need the politicians and the politics that will deliver everything you've just said today on the basis of tomorrow. So the question again is this: do we have the political drive and the political structure that will deliver all that you've just said as we look forward to a new program of year 2040 to be designed by the year 2020?
The truth is that we have political will as we speak today. The president we have and our constitution has so much empowered the president of our country to provide the will if he wants to. It has also helped the governors of state to provide the will if they want to. The question is the individuals in office, how willing are they? You cannot be willing to do what you don't know. You cannot close your eyes and run 100 kilometers while you are driving. We need those that will be at the ends of affairs first to have understanding of building economics. When you look at states that have had prosperity, in Nigeria, I'm not talking of America now, in Nigeria, what you notice is that there was a point in time where people of understanding led those states. That was why they had prosperity and economic progress as it were. So they have knowledge and understanding of that regard. If you don't have those that have knowledge and understanding, it is still the same, it is still the same politics. It is still the same as state. But there was prosperity at the time. There was no prosperity at the time. In fact, Lagos State was faced with challenges with federal government at the time. But later on, Lagos State was able to bring itself out of economic backwardness to front runner of Nigeria economically among the subnational. Whether we will bring such leadership to our politics today, it's another argument entirely. I only hope that those in authorities today will do something that will become legacy, that when Mr. A or Mr. B was in office at federal, Nigeria has 24 hours power supply. That it was the administration of XYZ that provided education for Nigerians such that out-of-school children reduced from 13 million to 500,000. It is administration of XYZ that stopped, not because we made it a policy that people should not travel for checkup, for health checkup, but because everything you were looking for abroad is now with us in Nigeria. These and many more are the things we need to do as those leading Nigerians today, so that tomorrow and their names will be written on good of time, on sand of time.
And we have run out of time here on the show. The 1 hour is now over. Thank you so much, Paul Alaje, Senior Economist at SPM Professionals. We appreciate your time and bringing insight and perspectives into one of the most critical discussions in Nigeria of today as we look forward to tomorrow. Thank you so much, Paul, and we thank our viewers here in Nigeria and around the world. I'll see you again tomorrow. The businesses and markets are reopening for the final trading day of the week, and yet we have a lot to talk about. We'll focus more on the markets when we return tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone.